No, Kristi Noem comes in and writes a letter to Harvard saying, we want certain information on your foreign students. We want you to comply within a certain period of time, failing which we're going to revoke the privilege, as she called it, to enroll foreign students. And they defaulted, I guess, and Kristi Noem announces, well, hitherto we're revoking your right to enroll foreign students for the year 2025, 2026. And they went and got an ex parte TRO enjoining prohibiting the enforcement of that revocation of a privilege. Because the first question is, what authority does Kristi Noem have? And in virtue of what can they revoke whatever privileges they were offering or Harvard was getting by way from the feds as relates to enrollment of foreign students?
So in general, basically, foreign students only can access American universities at the permission and grace, if you will, of the federal government and the executive branch in particular in this regard. So it's long been recognized they have pretty carte blanche. To give you an idea of how much carte blanche they have, in 1979, President Carter ordered that every single Iranian student in the country be expelled, not only from their universities, but removed and deported from the country. There was no one who challenged his legal authority to do so. So if you can mass expel and mass deport foreign students, by golly, you can prohibit federal funds from going to universities for those foreign students, just as you can just say you're not going to allow those foreign students to enroll at any particular university. This is a far more limited approach than what Jimmy Carter did. And so because Harvard has refused to comply with federal law in a wide range of contexts, discrimination law, federal grant law. I mean, the guy who ran the Harvard morgue just got caught selling body parts. The other issue is that they are in bed with the Chinese Communist Party. They have been for a very long time. What will shock many Americans is that many Ivy League schools depend financially on foreign students, and often, as it involves in China and other places. I mean, for example, Xi's child is a Harvard grad. Right, the premier of the Chinese head of the Chinese Communist Party sent his kid to Harvard. Right, that's how friendly Harvard is to these idolatries, if you will. And then it turns out, Harvard's been repeatedly caught with professors and other people, students engaged in sabotage, engaged in seditious activities against the United States and trade secret deals, all the rest. The Confucius Institute, which is very misnamed. It's like they've been taking their advice from Jeffrey Sachs, who thinks that China is this a beacon of peace and democracy because they're all Confucius-inspired people. Which I was unaware that Sun Tzu's book was called Art of Peace. I guess I missed that from the Chinese tradition. And then Harvard got recently caught institutionally involved in facilitating various sabotage efforts of the Chinese government. So, Harvard is an anti-American institution. That's the reality. It's seen as the penultimate American institution. These days, it's the penultimate anti-American institution. Why should we be subsidizing them and supporting them by giving them federal grants, by giving them federal funds, or giving them special permission to enroll foreign students?
It's a thing that I don't think most people are fully aware of. 27% of the students at Harvard are foreign students. Of that, the biggest country that supplies foreign students to Harvard is China. I do wonder how the Chinese students get their funding, their enrollment in Harvard. But I mean, at what point are you actually not just training the enemy? I mean, they're coming in.
That's exactly what's going on. But more than that, using federal funds to sabotage American security and American prosperity. I mean, they've taken affirmatively and aggressively, not just random, a few professors, a few students. The university administration was doing it. And that's what made it intolerable. Now, of course, Harvard immediately ran to their favorite federal judge there in Boston, the same federal judge who said that their overt and open racial discrimination somehow didn't violate any federal law or any constitutional constraint on their actions as a recipient of federal funds. The Supreme Court, of course, reversed that. Same judge magically got the case, of course. And the same judge magically ran in to protect and salvage Harvard from its illegality and wrongdoing. Democrats apparently think defending Harvard is going to be this rallying cry across the country. And this tells you how out of touch they are. They're like the characters from the Apple show, Your Friends and Neighbors, other than John Hamm's character. They're like all the other characters. They really believe that Harvard is because Harvard is the ultimate symbol of the professional and managerial class in America. Harvard is not well respected amongst ordinary Americans. It's not seen as an institution that represents or reflects American values. None of the Ivy League is seen that way. It's seen as very prestigious universities, but they're mostly seen as snobs. That's why we always pick Brits to play our villains in America for a lot of American movies, because you hear that accent and you think snob as quickly or as easily as you think maybe smart. So Harvard is in legal trouble and in political trouble, and it's just doubling down, and it's hoping the judicial branch protects it from the legal consequences it should face. I don't think ultimately they'll be successful in this regard. Of course, you know what? 1 out of 4 federal judges and federal clerks are at Harvard or came from Harvard or got a degree from Harvard. So, you know, how likely are they to turn on their prior university? We'll see. But there's no question legally the president has the complete power to do what he's doing. See no further than Jimmy Carter, Mr. Human Rights himself, and his precedent that he set with Iranian students in 1979.
It's not the case. Like Kristi Noem has not said that they're going to revoke their F1 visas. They're strictly denying a privilege to Harvard in particular, who has failed to comply with what is basically a national security issue in terms of providing information as to the foreign students, what they've been doing, have they been participating in any, campus protests and whatever. And they say no. How the hell do they go and get a judge? It happens to be the same judge who adjudicated the case back in 2020 involving Trump, who issues an ex parte TRO. That doesn't even let Kristi Noem and the state come and present their case. How do they rationalize that? I didn't see anything about it.
They don't care. They think the ends justify the means. They believe they're more righteous than the rest of us. They believe they should run the world. I shared a couple of articles in the Barnes Brief this week over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. One by Professor John Eastman, another one by a good writer who was part of the Trump administration, talking about the wonderful decline of the Federalist Society, thank God, in the respect and appreciation of the Trump administration. And Eastman, of course, as well, demonstrating this is just rogue behavior. This is a judicial aristocracy. What the anti-federalists warned about, what Thomas Jefferson warned about, what Andrew Jackson warned about, what Abraham Lincoln warned about, what Franklin Delano Roosevelt warned about, has now come to full fruition. We have a federal judicial branch that has set itself up as the superior branch, that it should govern all policies, period, end of story. And that they consider themselves superior to the legislative branch and absolutely superior to the executive branch, and in all cases superior to the common person of America that they look down upon. They're here to protect the federal bureaucracy, here to protect the corrupt NGOs, here to protect illegal immigration, here to protect open borders, here to protect the Ivy League from any degree of law enforcement in this country. And they are going to continue to do so until the Supreme Court hems them in, or if they don't, Congress and the president hem them in. They're creating a constitutional conflict. It's not a constitutional crisis; it's a constitutional confrontation, because they are exceeding their power. And so, when and if Trump has to say no mas to these rogue judicial rulings and say you made your ruling, you can go enforce it, then until that happens, we're going to continue to see this. The Supreme Court not stepping in right away, as we talked about and warned, this was going to open the door to every Trump-hating judge, which is 2/3 of the people that sit on the federal bench, because even a lot of the Republicans are Bushites. They were either appointed by George W. Bush or Poppy Bush, and most of them hate Trump, despise Trump. Trump, remember, destroyed the Bush family political legacy in this country, something that built up over a century and a half. If you go back to Mama Bush, it was extraordinary. I think it was Lewis Black years ago did a thing about how the Bush family, if you go through their whole history, some of the worst politicians in American history all have genetic ties to Bushes. President Pierce, some others that have ties there. But that's what you're seeing, and that they think that no one's going to stop them. They think no one's going to hem them in. They think they don't care what the American people think, and they don't care what the law says. They don't care what prior precedent is. It's exactly what everybody warned about. You set up this branch that naturally tends itself towards oligarchy and aristocracy. you're going to sooner or later get an oligarchic aristocracy. And that's what the federal judiciary now is. And so hopefully enough normies have been red-pilled to where Trump has enough support in the court of public opinion that he can put the court in the place it belongs, which is subordinate to the American people.
Practically speaking, as relates to this, nobody's in any particular rush here because the order or the revocation was only for the next year. So, I mean, I guess they're going to have a hearing on an interim injunction. When do they do that?
Next, they'll go to the preliminary injunction stage. Then it'll go up to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, which has a bunch of Trump haters on it, and then it will go to the Supreme Court, and we'll see what they do. But the Supreme Court's ruling on nationwide injunctions could have a broad impact on a lot of this. That decision is coming within the next couple of weeks. But hopefully they step in and fix something. Or what's going to happen if they don't fix anything in their decisions over the next month, then Trump is going to be put into a position come late summer and early fall where he's got to go full Andrew Jackson and tell him to shove off. That he'll have no choice in order to protect the security of the American people, but more importantly, from my perspective, protect our constitutional liberty, which right now the greatest threat to our constitutional liberty are those wearing black robes.